It's been 2 years since we began this journey. And this year, we're building something different. We're searching for young esports talent. From Surabaya, Malang, Makassar, Ambon, Semarang, Yogyakarta, Pontianak, and Padang. Focusing on developing esports event management. And nurturing local players. And this is American Spaces Indonesia Esport Development Program. More than a game. It's been 2 years since we began this journey. And this year, we're building something different. We're searching for young esports talent. From Surabaya, Malang, Makassar, Ambon, Semarang, Yogyakarta, Pontianak, and Padang. Focusing on developing esports event management. And nurturing local players. And this is American Spaces Indonesia Esport Development Program. More than a game.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, respected speakers, partners, and dearest participants. Welcome to Youth Center Bagindo ASEAN Padang in today's event, Advancing Technology Innovation, Sustainable Business, and Digitalization in the ASEAN region. Gotong Royong from the U.S. perspective. My name is Naira, and today I'll be your master of ceremony. First of all, let us express our gratitude to God for His blessings, which allow us to gather here today in good health and spirit. This event is proudly organized by U.S. Mission in Indonesia, American Corner Padang, and local government of Padang. Thanks as well for Youth Center Bagindo ASEAN for provide this facilitation for us as part of the shared commitment in fostering innovation, sustainable business, and digital transformation in the ASEAN region, rooted in the spirit of Gotong Royong. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially open this event, we are honored to invite Mr. Christian Simanulang as American Spaces Program Specialist, U.S. Embassy Jakarta, to deliver the welcoming remarks. To Mr. Christian Simanulang, the floor is yours.
Selamat siang semuanya. Selamat siang. Saya pakai bahasa Indonesia aja ya. Mungkin bahasa Indonesia saya kurang lancar, jadi mohon dimengerti. Oke, selamat siang. Siang, apa kabar semuanya? Oke, kalau saya tanya apa kabar, teman-teman bisa jawab. Biasanya apa ya kalau di sini? Baik gitu. Ada Gimana Bu? Baik, luar biasa. Oke, kita coba ya. Selamat siang, apa kabarnya? Luar biasa. Oke, kasih tepuk tangan buat kita semua. Ya. Ini kita sangat berterima sekali buat teman-teman di American Corner yang ada di Padang. Saya minta teman-teman yang ada di American Corner, panitia bisa diri di sini semua dulu. Karena program kali ini sebenarnya merupakan program uji coba kita. Mana teman-teman yang ini? Ilham sini, Anggi sini, yang lainnya Hakim sini. Nah, udah di sini. Oke. Siapa lagi? Ayu, Meji, ayo come on guys. Oh, Farhan sini, nggak apa-apa. Kan kameranya situ aja. Ini penting sekali buat saya. Oke, Farhan di situ, Meji di sini. Kami dari US Embassy di Jakarta, kita punya program namanya American Space. Kita ada 12 lokasi American Space. Salah satunya ada di Universitas Andalas. Gitu. Jadi teman-teman kita yang ada di sini, mereka adalah rekan kerja kita yang ada di Universitas Andalas. Mereka ini menyebut dirinya apa? Diri kalian apa? Volunteers. Ya, volunteers. Jadi anak-anak yang memberikan dedikasi waktunya untuk bersama-sama melakukan program kegiatan di American Corner di Andalas. Nah, pertanyaan saya, siapa di antara Pak Ibu teman-teman semua yang di sini pernah datang ke American Corner yang ada di Andalas? Boleh angkat tangannya? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oke, lumayan ya, lumayan. Jadi mungkin dengan acara ini kita ingin memperkenalkan program kita yang ada di American Corner di Andalas. Dan nanti ke depan lebih sering juga buat program di tengah kota, misalnya di tempat Youth Center ini. Tapi kami sangat berharap Bapak Ibu teman-teman bisa berkunjung ke American Corner kita yang ada di Universitas Andalas yang tepatnya lokasinya di lantai 2 ya. Lantai 2 Perpustakaan Pusat. Perpustakaan Pusat Universitas Andalas. Mereka banyak sekali program, ada program tentunya bahasa Inggris, program film, ada program kalau mereka terkenal dengan diplomasi simulation, lalu ada e-sport, tadi teman-teman lihat ya, sangat singkat sekali, itu nanti akan program yang akan dilakukan di tahun ini, Kenapa? Karena tahun ini ada Piala Dunia. Ya, Piala Dunia yang diadakan di Amerika. Walaupun tim Indonesia belum masuk ke Piala Dunia, minimal kita bisa bertanding di game. Jadi kita buat e-sport. Tapi selain e-sport, game kita juga belajar sosial media, kita belajar live stream, kita belajar bagaimana jadi marketing yang baik. Jadi saya harap melalui program kita kali ini bukan cuma jadi sekedar program yang dimana Bapak Ibu teman-teman mendengarkan program, tapi kedepannya bisa berkoneksi, bisa membangun jejaring. Jadi setelah program ini nantinya setelah kita selesai ada program dari Bapak Anup, saya harap teman-teman dari American Corner bisa berkenalan, menjalin hubungan kedepannya bagaimana, bisa diskusi juga. Misalnya tadi saya dengar dari Faye, kalau di sini ada beberapa ibu-ibu yang dari program pemberdayaan perempuan untuk UMKM, buat UMKM, sangat bagus sekali ya. Jadi karena kan Kota Padang terkenal dengan makanan ya, makanan, kuliner. Jadi saya rasa bagaimana kita dari American Corner kolaborasi untuk program UMKM, benar nggak teman-teman? Betul, ya selain kalian suka makan juga ya. Ya, ke depan saya harap selesai program ini kalau bisa nanti teman-teman American Corner akan menyapa. Jadi jangan langsung selesai program langsung bubar gitu ya. Jadi bisa saling kontak. Mungkin buat adik-adik gitu ya. Tadi sempat ngelihat, wah apaan tuh? Ada mobile game nih. Gimana tuh caranya? Nah bisa tanya. Ada syaratnya atau bagaimana gitu ya. Mungkin dari saya dekat waktu aja. Tolong diingat wajah-wajah ini. Jadi jangan merasa bahwa ini program yang sangat sangat serius, sangat kita pokoknya datang di sini terima ilmu habis itu pulang, bukan. Ini tempat di mana kita saling berkenalan. Karena seperti kata kalau orang Padang suka pantun ya, jadi saya nggak ngasih pantun sih. Tapi maksudnya kalau nggak kenal maka nggak sayang. Ya, jadi mari kita kenalan selesai acara ini. Nanti selesai acara ini saya akan stay di sini. Ada Bu Endang juga dari Embassy Jakarta, ada Pak Anup juga. Nanti kita bisa saling diskusi program kita ke depan buat Padang khususnya apa yang bisa kita lakukan bersama-sama. Untuk itu saya ucapkan terima kasih dan saya serahkan kepada MC. Terima kasih. Oke guys,
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Christian Simanulang, for the welcoming remarks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great pleasure to introduce our honorable speakers for today. He is Mr. Anup Mahajan as Regional Public Engagement Specialist from the U.S. Embassy Jakarta. Mr. Mahajan has extensive experience in public diplomacy and regional engagement, particularly in the strengthening collaboration between the United States and the Southeast Asia. Today, he will share valuable insight on how technology innovation, sustainable business, and digital transformation can be advanced through the partnership and the spirit of Gotong Royong. Without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Anup Mahajan. The stage is yours, sir.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I want to welcome you all first. First, before I begin, Salamat Siang. Okay, and now the only other Indonesian that I know, apa kabar? But I realize no one says that anymore too. So I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm going to speak in English for this presentation. Is that a problem for anybody? I mean, not that I can do about it if it was, but okay. So I'm going to speak in English. If for some reason I am speaking too fast or you need some clarification, I will point to some of my colleagues here to translate. But just, we're going to keep this casual. We're going to keep this informal. I don't want this to be too much of like a lecture or anything. I just want to impart thoughts about what the U.S. mission is doing here in Indonesia. And when I say U.S. mission, I mean the United States presence in Indonesia. So that means our embassy in Jakarta, where I work, also with my colleagues Bu Endong and Pa Christian. And then 2 consulates. We have a consulate in Medan and a consulate in Surabaya. And then we have a visa post, a consular post in Bali. And that one is not a consulate or an embassy, that is just an outpost for American citizen services, for Americans that either find themselves in emergency situations or need assistance in Bali. So a little bit about me first, the boring part, before into the good stuff. My fancy title is Regional Public Engagement Specialist. What that means is, all that means is that I am the American officer. I'm also a US diplomat. I represent the US. And my portfolio covers the American spaces. And I think Pa Christian and our friends from the American Corner Padang here, I want to thank them all as well for all their hard work. My portfolio covers the American spaces. So American corners like Padang, we have 8 of them around Indonesia. And all of them are critical platforms for engaging with you, right? So this is at the heart of what I do, not only for American spaces, but also as a US diplomat. I have the profound fortune and luck of being able to live and work around the world and do this, you know, in many different parts of the world. And the thing that I love most about it is, beyond the office work and beyond some of the government to government things that I do, is connecting with people like you, right? And that's sort of at the heart of, you see this fancy title here. It sounds kind of boring. So I thank all of you for coming on a Tuesday afternoon to hear such a serious sounding topic. We're not gonna sound like CNN today. This title is very it's very businessy. I have to admit, I'm trying something new today. This is a new topic for me, but recently, you know, like, this was the first time I came to Indonesia, right? So serving here, I've been here now since May of last year for my assignment. It's a 2-year assignment. I'd never been to Indonesia, but I heard a lot about Indonesia. I was born and raised in the United States. I grew up in New York. I think some of you have probably heard of that place. And so, you know, growing up in New York, it's so diverse, right? Just like Indonesia, so many people from around the world. My parents immigrated to the US early in their lives. There are, you know, people from every walk, every culture, every background there. So I'd heard about Indonesia, but then, you know, you learn so much about a place when you live and work there, right? And so I came here, and in the 8 months, I've come to, in all the conversations that I've had throughout my time so far, I've traveled around Indonesia. I also cover American spaces in Malaysia, Philippines, and Timor-Leste. The concept of Gotong Royong was new to me. I had never heard of that before. And so it fascinated me, because for American spaces, you know, the work that me and my colleagues do here is in Indonesia is really providing skills, right? We exist because we want spaces and platforms and programs for people like you to have the skills that you need to succeed in a rapidly changing world, right? I don't need to tell you, I mean, I sound old now, but you know, from the time that I grew up to the time now, all of you young folks are growing up, the world has changed a lot, right? Skills have changed, institutions are changing, geopolitical relationships are changing. I mean, everything's changing now, right? So some of the older ways of doing things, some of the older skills, some of the things that we learn about in school has changed, right? So this is one of the things I want to talk to you about is, so, you know, but 2 things remain constant, right? One is that we have to remain adaptable in order to succeed in a global economy. And 2, culture doesn't change, right? And so that's what I mean by this concept of Gotong Royong. You know, it's a governing concept, right? It's part of the culture here in Indonesia. But we here in the US mission are also here to help, you know, at the heart of our relationship between the US and Indonesia is improving the lives of everybody, right? In a way that's mutually beneficial, not only for the United States, but also for Indonesia, right? And so a way to do that meaningfully in a rapidly changing world is for us to keep in mind principles like Gotong Royong, right? And what does it mean? So we come here as Americans. I come here as an American. I talk fast. I dress weird. I stand out, right? And we talk in our English, and it's different. It's different, right? And when I travel from American corner to American corner, whether it's in Indonesia and the Philippines and Malaysia, I get a very similar vibe, right? There's a hunger, there's a passion amongst all of you, amongst young people for the skills, right? Everyone asks me, the number one thing I get asked as a diplomat, no matter where I am in the world, and I've been in Brazil, I've been in Nepal, I've been here, I've been in Australia. Number one thing, these are all very different countries, but what do I need to do to either get a job? Or what do I need to do to get into Harvard? Or what do I need to do to, open my own business, right? These are, no matter whether you're Brazilian, Indonesian, Nepali, Indian, whatever, these are all the same questions, right? So part of the talk that I want to do today with you, sort of informally, is kind of open up your eyes to, from my perspective as an American, what's the landscape that we're looking at, right? What do I see as really important for all of you in the work that I do, which is in American spaces, in terms of opportunities to really provide you new ways of thinking about skills that you need, okay? And that's the key. That's the key to today's talk. Not really, this just sounds fancy, but this is gonna make more sense in a few minutes. So could we go to the next, the only slide that I have? Can we pull that image up? So the entire talk today that I'm going to give to you anchors on this. I don't know if you could see this, but I came across, how many of you know LinkedIn? All of you know LinkedIn, right? And if you don't, you should. But let's actually zoom out a little bit. Keep going. Let's zoom out a little more. Someone? Anyone? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. So this chart here, I came across, in my LinkedIn feed. I follow, hundreds of people follow me. I don't even know some of them. And then, so on my feed came up with this chart one day, and I thought it was really fascinating. It's called the core skills needed in the year 2030, right? And it's based on real data. So if you look on the vertical axis here, it's share of employers that are expecting increasing skills in use by 2030, okay? And then on the bottom is, let me pull it up here, on the bottom axis is share of employers that are considering as a core skill in 2025. So what you're gonna look at is, when you look at the quadrant into 4 boxes, right? You have emerging skills, you have the skills that everyone thinks they need in 2030 in the upper right. This is the what we're gonna call out of focus skills, right? This is what was probably essential when I was growing up, and in an old world, right over here, these are the skills. And then these are kind of low demand, but are still around, what we're gonna call steady skills. So what I wanna do is have you look at all of this in total, and we're gonna talk about this. And I want you to keep coming back to this. This is going to be up for my entire presentation because we're going to keep coming back to this. My key point to you is that if you look at the core skills in 2030, right? None of this should be a surprise. Is it surprising to anyone? No, right? We got AI and big data. We got technological literacy. We have curiosity and lifelong learning, talent management, creative thinking. But here's what I want to ask you, though. If you look at the 2 blue dots, the orange dot, so creative thinking, leadership and social influence, analytical thinking, and resilience and flexibility, how many of you are surprised to see that? Are you surprised to see skills like that? No? Why? Can I ask somebody to explain more? I guess I got to give you a mic. Okay. Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
So the thing is, in my opinion, that AI usage will be get more increase. So the essential skills like technical skills will be less needed, and more humanitarian needed skills like analytical, critical thinking will be more on demand. Yeah, because AI will close up the power of technical skills that we need inside the business or any field. So we will need more emotional skills in the...
Perfect. And there was a young woman who also had a comment, or I think. Go ahead, don't be shy. Yes? No? So, okay, so no, there's no one. Yes, that is perfect. And that's sort of one of the keys I wanted to tell you, but you said it, you nailed it right on, that technology is going to require, technology is going to require the human impact, right? So there's never going to be the change in, you know, AI can only do so much, but we have the ethics around it. We have the skills that are needed to confidently look at the data that is spitting out, right? I think about, you know, when you think about me, right, when I introduce myself as a diplomat, right? What do you think of? When you think of diplomat, like what do you think? And you can be honest. Like boring, institutional, sitting in an embassy. Yeah? Say that again? Yes. Okay, yeah, building meaningful relationships. But, you know, and I would say the same thing. Intercultural awareness, you know, I need to be able to like live openly and work and interact with other cultures. Of course, that's there. But I never thought, for me, working now in the year 2026 as a diplomat, I have to understand AI and big data. So even for me, in a really human profession, it's the opposite, right? I don't work in a really technical field, right? But I work in the field of social sciences and human relations, right? And diplomacy, international relations. That's a very like, you know, social thing, right? But yet, day in and day out, me and my colleagues are learning how to understand how AI is impacting what I do, how we interact with other governments and people. So it's really fascinating, right? And so the thing about this chart is, you know, it highlights, the key takeaway here is that none of these skills exist alone, right? So that, and this is where I want to kind of narrow it down to the Gotong Royong part, you know, that we think of, you know, Gotong Royong's like collaboration, right? And thinking about sort of like the communal aspects of doing things, if I had to say, right? Similarly, from the US perspective, we think about the whole ecosystem of these skills working together, right? So that's really what I want you to think about is think about these skills as stacking, not like singular skills, right? The future isn't about one perfect skill, right? It's about combining skills and sometimes through collaboration, which is the Gotong Royong part. Does that make sense? So I want to ask you guys a question before we move forward. How many of you, by show of hands, looking at this, how many of you would say that you what skill are you best at in this chart? If you were to say, what skill that's listed here do you think you have that you do well? Do we have the other mic? Or yeah? Oh yeah.
Creative and analytical thinking.
Analytical thinking, yeah.
And creative thinking.
Uh-huh.
It seems like just this, yeah.
Creative thinking, yeah.
Just a blues.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Anyone else?
For me, in my research, I am using AI and machine learning.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. As international relation, we are very aware about leadership and social influence, and also creative thinking and analytical thinking.
What was that?
Creative thinking and
creativity and yeah, uh-huh.
Maybe
Okay.
that's all for me.
Yeah. Anyone else?
For me, I think I will pick motivation and self-awareness because the Gen Z will really aware with the, you know, like self-awareness and also self-help. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's all for me.
So what's really fascinating to me, just from like the few answers that I've gotten, it's so generational to me, right? All of you kind of focused on like what we call in the US soft skills, right? None of you mentioned like hard technical skills, right? Like you didn't mention like, oh, I need to learn more about networks and cybersecurity or design and user experience or I don't know, like marketing and media, right? And it's really fascinating because this is exactly what our challenge is from the US mission, right? Us and most other probably large governments with an established way of doing something, we still operate, and a lot of what we operate in this area, right? So much of the world's institutions are still set up in that out of focus skill. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, that I'm trying to do with my colleagues, is in American Spaces, is really develop opportunities and programs and physical spaces for you to really develop everything else, because you're already getting those skills at school. You can get them online. Technology has changed the way that anyone now can take a free course through Harvard and learn marketing, right? You can still get, you can learn reading, writing, mathematics, all those things, but you're not going to get the soft skills, right? And so that's the important part, right? And so the big message from this chart, I think, is that technology skills are rising, right? We know that. And you all are keeping abreast of your changes and knowing what to do with the different things. But human skills are rising just as fast, right? So I think it's important for your generation to realize that you have to adapt. Adaptability is far more important than just rote memorization or just knowing your skill set, right? And so that's what we do at the US mission is we focus on skills, not just credentials, right? So a degree is a degree, right? And I'm not putting that down. A degree is important. Some of you, a lot of you will have bachelor's degrees, master's degree. I have those too. But that's not enough, right? It's not enough anymore. Whether you're in the US, here, wherever. So think about how are you going to combine what you already know with what you need to know? This is just a visual, but just to help you think about that today. But that's the number one thing I want you to think about, is think about what it is you need to be successful in whatever it is you want to do. How many of you do you think that you're going to be doing a job that doesn't exist today? I know it's a weird question, but it's worth asking. Huh? Accountant? Okay, well, an accountant will exist, but it'll exist in a different way, probably in 15, 20 years, right? So how many of you are studying like, I don't know, like finance? Let's go with finance. Finance, marketing, finance, economics, business. So if you think about how business, what aspect of business do you focus on? What? Say that again? Oh, small and medium enterprise. Yeah. Okay. So do you work with entrepreneurs and yeah. So that's huge, right? I mean, and when you think about, so like for example, from the U.S. mission, we provide opportunities for entrepreneurs to learn from one another, to have, what do we call them? Boot camps. A couple of years ago, there was a land program from the U.S. government, the American Women Entrepreneurship Program, the AW program, which was very big. So entrepreneurship is increasingly going to be a very big focus of not only from the US side, but also for sustainability, right? And that brings me to another point too. When we talk about sustainability in this region of the world, right? You don't just, I don't want you to just think about environment or like the green way of doing things. I mean, that's one way of sustainability. It's not just an environment, but it's an ecosystem of all different skills, but also the communities that you work in, right? Again, it's that Gotong Royong aspect, right? So for example, in Padang here, right? Like tourism and food are really big, right? I know because I had the food last night, very good. But also, you know, tourism alone and the culinary tourism of this region is not going to work if you don't have jobs, right? And if you don't have jobs, you know, you also need the systems in place to create those jobs. You also need the incentives from small businesses to experiment and to provide food and to provide new ways of doing things. So that's the communal aspect that we don't want you to lose, right? But thinking about what are all the different ways in which you can get involved in many different parts of that work chain, right? In that supply chain. So thinking about skills that employers need, you know, looking again at this chart, you know, I would say, you know, in my career, having been in the US, it's, you know, analytical thinking and critical thinking, systems thinking, curiosity and lifelong learning. That's a huge one. If, you know, a lot of your careers are going to be more global, and they're increasingly going to be, you're going to increasingly be working with people that are not like you, that talk different languages, that have completely different backgrounds and beliefs. And so to be open and to be curious and to be comfortable with that, right? Because that's what your world's going to look like. And you know, where we are in the region, right? In the ASEAN region here, how many of you know, first of all, I mean, I assume that, you know, I'm talking in all these government terms, but ASEAN, everyone knows what I mean by ASEAN? Yeah, the ASEAN region? Does someone want to explain for others who are too shy? Do we have a mic? Where's the mic? I'll just... Sure, okay.
ASEAN basically is the association of Southeast Asian nation that's around Indonesia, like Malaysia, Vietnam, and these. So these countries are cooperating with each other in terms of education, in terms of trades and different things. So it's kind of organization that working together to build a environment or help each other in different ways. Yeah.
Right, perfect.
Yeah, just like we have biggest organization, United Nations. So they are at lower level.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. So for everyone else, you know, that was a great answer. You know, ASEAN, this region and this group of countries is really important, to say the least, to the Western world, because you are in a region where there are a lot of global issues that are taking place that affect the livelihoods of not only people here, but also around the world, right? And the relationships that countries make here in this region reverberate or ripple throughout the world, right? And so some of those issues that we focus on, right, from the U.S. mission perspective, you know, there's urban growth, right? The problems or issues that come with the populations in this country, in these countries alone, right? The sheer population alone is huge. When you combine Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, the newest one, you know, and all the other countries, you're talking about a lot of people in the world, right? And so jobs, bread and butter industry and economies, right? And so much of what we do across the mission, right, in across the U.S. footprint in Indonesia is providing different opportunities to different regions that need them to help grow these sectors, right? So one of the biggest issues that we work on is digital inequality, right? That's a fancy word. So digital inequality means the differences in access that people have, not only to connectivity or technological tools, but also their literacy with it, right? Their ability to harness the skills, again, going back up here, that are propelling the digital world to evolve, right? And so the more and more the economy is going to grow, the bigger the solutions are going to be needed in the ASEAN region, right? And so, again, going back to this, to solve problems that are as big as like job inequality, connecting technology to more and more young people like you're going to need to work together, right? You're going to need not only to work together, but you're going to need a lot of people with a lot of different skills. And here you go, right? So the people that are going to be leading these initiatives, like you, many of you, as you grow up, are going to need all sorts of things, all sorts of skills, all sorts of perspectives in order to solve these problems, right? And so, you know, I think a lot of what we do, myself and American colleagues, are providing problem-solving initiatives, right? Workshops, debate clubs, conversation clubs, English training, innovation challenges, things that you need to be ready to solve these kinds of problems. So I'm going to ask one of my friends from the corner here in Padang to speak for a second about how does the American Corner help solve these bigger issues. Who wants to speak from the American Corner for a second? Someone? Otherwise, I'm going to choose somebody. Anyone? So the question, or what I would love, is for someone from the American Corner to just quickly, in like 1 minute, tell the group how the American spaces are helping equip your peers in Indonesia with the skill set they need to like solve these kinds of problems. It doesn't have to be, there's no right or wrong. Oh, here we go. Okay. Thank you. Yes. Does it work? Do you want this one? Oh, there's a button. There's a button. There you go. Okay. Yep.
First of all, my name is Bahagia Kim. So the way American Corner is solve the problem in some place in Indonesia is they make some collaborations with a local partner that are related with the problem, and then coming together to solve with the regional and local way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And that's perfect, right? When you talk about solving skills in a regional or local way, that's going back to that Gotong Royong, right? Notion, right? That like, to me, that takes human skills, right? And so it's no surprise that to solve a lot of these bigger problems, you know, we're humans that are solving these things, right? So at the heart of it's going to be leadership and social influence, for example, right? Or empathy and active listening, right? Motivation and self-awareness, or having a service mindset, right? So the future, I mean, you know, it's interesting as an American talking about this because, right, so much of the American mindset of the future of work and the way we do work is very individualistic, right? If I had to like kind of stereotype as an American, right, my view of like you know, corporate or work achievement. It's very individual, right? But that's not the way 3/4 of the world works, right? I mean, 3/4 of the world, it's more like, what are you doing together, right? And so I think from an American standpoint, we're realizing that, okay, you know what? A lot of these issues are collaboration based, right? And I think this is something that's a collective asset. It's such a positive that you all have in your culture, that you know, you work together, and that these skills don't need to be learned alone, right? Or in isolation, right? Because you have so much of this, so much of that box in the upper right, you have from a cultural standpoint, right? When you think about your upbringing and when you think about how you were raised, right? You were raised to be curious in life, and to be curious, right? You were raised, I mean, this is an important one, right? I think, in my perspective, in Indonesian culture, I mean, the service orientation, right? But what I mean by service orientation, some of you are nodding your heads, right? It totally makes sense, right? Like, by service orientation, we mean you're open and you're willing to cooperate with others, right? And to help others. And so many Asian cultures you have that naturally. That's not something Americans your age know what to, I mean, that doesn't come naturally to a lot of Americans your age, right? So, you know, these are like completely assets for you that you have, right? So I don't want you to forget that. And, you know, I think, you know, the most important thing too is that a lot of those things that we maybe reduce to culture, right? And you're probably thinking, oh God, why does he keep talking about Gotong Royong? Why is it in his title? Because, you know, so much of those principles that open up my eyes, those are at the heart of what I do in diplomacy, what me and my colleagues do. It's also at entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurs need to know those skills, and also leadership in general, right? So these are all skills that are assets to you. And so again, going back to what our friend from the American Corner said, you know, a lot of what we're building in from the US Embassy standpoint and consulate standpoint are youth-led projects, right? We want you to lead. We want you to have hands-on opportunities to be able to do these things and test out what skills work and what don't. Find out what you're good at and what you need to know, what you don't have right now and what you want to know, right? And what you need to know to get to where you want to be. And also leadership and public speaking, right? This is another one that's important, right? We provide a lot of emphasis on English language training, and clubs and associations. And for better or for worse, you know, I mean, English is going to be here for a while. It's the medium for the global economy. And so this doesn't mean to say, I'm not standing up here and saying that everybody, in order to be successful in life, needs to understand or needs to speak English. However, I do say that so much of that focus comes from the US because I don't want you to just think about it as English, right? But think about the comfort and think about your mindset when you are in a situation or a space where you have to speak English, right? And it's not your native language. You feel that, right? You feel that sort of like initial, like, oh my God, you know, people are gonna judge me, or people are gonna like laugh, or I don't know, I don't think I'm too shy. I'd rather just be quiet rather than speak up. I'm the same way, right? I'm the same way in the foreign languages that I know, right? I'd rather just speak English because I don't want to be, you know, I don't want people to laugh at me or whatever, right? It's human. So the reason we focus a lot on the English part is not just for the English, but it's for you to develop the confidence, you to develop some of these soft skills that you're going to need, even if you stay in Indonesia for the rest of your life and your career is in Indonesia. The confidence that you're going to get from having learned something new, having learned something that you feel uncomfortable in, and operating in that environment, it's going to do wonders for you. I'm going to wrap up soon here. Some of the other things that I just want to mention is skills that matter less alone, but matter together, right? So for example, reading, writing, and math. This is some of the old quadrant here, right? Quality control, attention to detail, resource management. You know, a lot of the stuff that you see in this chart doesn't mean that it doesn't matter anymore, right? But they're stronger when things in this quadrant are stronger when they're combined with the diametrically opposite quadrant, right? So think about all the things that you're getting from your education here, right? That we still do well, that institutions that we know still do well, whether you're in college, graduate school, or you're learning skills yourself, you're in this box. But these things alone won't get you anywhere, right? No longer. So you have to think about whatever you're good at here and combining it with whatever is in that quadrant up there. That's what I want you to take away, right? That no longer, don't just think about things in isolation, right? Think about what you need and what combination of skills that are unique to you that you can get when you can support each other, right? So in closing, I just want to say, you know, like the future belongs to people who can learn continuously, right? It's not shock. Use technology responsibly, right? What, you know, I just want to ask all of you too, you know, because you, as Gen Zers, I'm assuming you're all Gen Z, you know technology really well. You know it better than me. You can teach me, you know. What do you think of when you think of technology in the future? Like, do you feel a sense of responsibility to technology? Yeah? Let's hear from someone sort of in the middle rows here. I've heard a lot from the front row. Does anyone want to talk about what responsible technology means to them? Anyone? How many of you, let me ask this in a better way. How many of you, by a show of hands, have used AI here? Okay. And just shout out now, okay? Just shout out. What do you use AI for? I hear some laughing. Okay. Almost everything. Okay. Others.
I use AI and machine learning for my research.
For your
and
research?
Also for one chatbot that I developed for ordering something from a restaurant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for
Okay.
that I also use AI.
Mm-hmm. Others?
So personally, I feed data into the AI
Oh, okay.
to find the different businesses that I can build between the international relations.
Interesting.
Yeah, like whatever product in this country and how can I import this, how can I export this from this country to another country. So
Wow.
I'm just trying to feed the AI into giving me this business ideas.
Do you all do you trust what AI is giving back to you
Not really.
all the time? Uh-huh. So how do you all navigate that? What are some, yeah.
So AI is more faster for research.
Yeah.
And after AI finds us information, we double check.
Yeah.
To confirm the information, the truth, the availability of this.
Interesting. And do you think, so like when you have critical lens, right? When you're like, okay, I know what I need to look at and what I don't. Was that taught to you, or do you just learn that on your? I'm genuinely fascinated.
From where I come from, it just normally happens.
Just you. Others, is it the same way? Yeah? So this is, I think, let me just take a step back. From the diplomat point of view, right? When we talk about responsible use of AI, we talk about it in a very serious, really bigger way, right? Which is like people are using AI now to manipulate things and elections and that kind of stuff, and you hear about, all sorts of like deep fakes and all that stuff. So like there's a scary level of like, oh my gosh, like AI is like so powerful and all those things. And so, I think one of the things that we're trying to do from the U.S. mission is sort of make that, how do we make that more accessible, right? How do we create a world in which there are rules around some of these things, right? Like technology and all those are going to keep evolving, but like creating rules and creating a shared norms and shared perspectives, right? Around what's ethical, right? You hear that word ethical all the time. And I think that's going to be such a bigger part of all of your careers, whether you're in accounting, finance, coding, diplomacy, whatever it is you choose to do with your life, these ethical questions are going to be so important. And the reason I say talk about the ethical questions, because again, you're going to need to analytically think. You're going to need to always be thinking about what systems are you working with, right? And not only just the AI and big data, but, you know, so again, I keep going back to this because we're talking about overlapping competencies and ways of looking at things. So in closing, I want to say, you know, this and the Gotong Royong perspective that you have, these are all ecosystems, right? This is an ecosystem. It's a depiction of what's going to happen in the world. You also, from your culture and from your amazing culture, you have a perspective about collaboration and working together. And I think the winning combination for all of you is combining those two things, right? Taking that cultural perspective that you have, which is collaborating and giving a sense of the community, and combining it with this roadmap here, right? Or a similar one. It doesn't have to be this, but, you know, whatever. And I can share this, you know, with all of you after today. But, you know, thinking about, I want you to always think about, you know, don't lose sense of where you come from and what your culture is and what that can mean in propelling you to get to where you want to be. And I think, you know, from the short 8 months that I've been here so far, I have already seen the potential for what you can all do in the future. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for questions. And see, yeah, please. I'll let you navigate this if you like.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anu. Okay, guys, now we open to question and answer. So let's raise your hand if you have question and kindly mention your name and your institution if you have one. Okay, please raise your hand if you have question, guys. Anyone have question? Okay.
Test.
Good afternoon, sir. Let me introduce myself. My name is Eka Prasita Dewi. You can call me Eka. And I'm from Padang Pariaman Regency. And my thank you for your knowledge for our. And I wanna ask, the question is, as a primary education student, I would like to ask, how can technology, innovation, and digitalization be actively introduced in elementary school, especially in areas with limited resources, to support sustainable education?
All right, thank you for your question. You answer right away?
Sorry?
Answer right away or collect the question?
Sure, I can answer. I'll before I forget. You know. Okay, so if I had to summarize, your question was, how can we better create education with technology at younger younger stages in education in areas that may not be well connected?
Yes,
Or,
exactly.
yeah. Okay, so that is a very important question and one that we spend a lot of time with in the U.S. government, and I can say that there isn't one right answer, but one of the things we're trying to be better at, and I'll talk about what I know from American Spaces is, you know, we want to reach communities where they are, right? And it's going to be kind of a simple answer, but it's really bringing more and more of the resources that we can. Oh, I thought okay. Bringing more and more of the resources that we can, and the backing and the training and programs that we can out to communities that are maybe not in cities, right? So what does that mean, right? So for example, like the corner here in Padang, right? And so many of our other corners around Indonesia, and even I have the benefit of seeing corners in Malaysia, for example, as well. And what we're trying to do, one of the biggest priorities coming from Washington, D.C. is really helping spread the priorities that we focus on, right? And so one of the things that we're well equipped to do in terms of like American Spaces, for example, is bringing mobile programs. And so more and more what you're going to see, at least in my area of work, is in the next 2 to 5 years, is a lot more of what we're doing physically in a corner, like so the kinds of activities that are being done in the corner in Padang on the campus of Andalas, bringing that out in some way to more rural communities. And that's already happening. Some of that work is already happening in Malaysia, for example. It's also starting in the Philippines. We do that work in Nepal, for example. So Nepal in South Asia, the American Spaces there have a book bus. It's called a book tuk, actually, and it's a mobile American Space that takes our programs, and they physically drive. They go out to communities, bringing those resources. So that's one way, but there are so many other ways. I mean, we also work, this is more of a diplomatic answer, but we work government to government in terms of education. And so I have colleagues in the embassy whose sole focus is working with the government of Indonesia on education and ensuring that primary school education you know, has the best practices and knowledge that we do from the US perspective in providing STEM and other exposure to students at a young age. I know that's not like a specific answer, but that's sort of what we're trying to do. Thank you for that question. Others?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity that you have given to me. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Septa Zikola. You can call me Ziko. I'm from Payakumbuh City, and I'm international relations student. So my question is, how United States as a main actor that influence our beloved country Indonesia by technological diplomacy, as we know that Indonesia divided to several islands, and each island has their challenging environments such as human research. So how the United States to face that environment challenging? Maybe that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So if I had to summarize your question, it was how can the United States help bridge sort of diverse regions from different islands in Indonesia from using technology? Okay. All have really intense questions. I love it. Okay, so with this one, some of the things we try to do in terms of, you know, a country that's the size of Indonesia is very challenging, right? And in the US, we face a similar challenge because the US is a large geographic country as well. You know, I think one of the things we can do is a lot of our programs we try, at least in Jakarta, is trying to build a diverse pool of people who can influence the local communities, right? And so there's several ways we do that, right? We have education exchanges, like you've heard of Fulbright, you've heard of you know, other programs like YSEALI, for example, right? And so we have some of these signature programs where we create an ecosystem, if you will, of change makers, right? And then we also have another flagship program called IVLP, where we nominate people from communities around Indonesia, and they go to the US for a month-long exchange program where they meet other scholars and other people from around the world in the US and they gain exposure in their field, and then they come back. So that's one very easy way that we, at least the US, is trying to change a lot of that differences in access and equity, because we want to provide everybody with opportunities, right? What I will say on the flip side, what Indonesians can do, not just relying on the US, is, you know, there's only so much we can do, right? There's only so many opportunities, exchange programs, funding is limited, right? And you can never know what's going to happen. So what I would say to all of somebody who's maybe living from a region that maybe is far away from Jakarta or far away from opportunities, is really try and find those mentors in your community or spaces that are similar to kind of like what I'm talking about with American Spaces, like finding that safe community of people who can help you find the skills you need, right? And I know, I don't mean to, that sounds easy and it sounds kind of like vague, but I think in today's day and world, you know, you're gonna have access to technology, right? And I think the kinds of upskilling that you can do on your own, no matter where you are, is powerful. And I think, you know, I've been to so many different countries where even in remote parts of particular countries, like in Brazil, for example, I was there, people who live kind of near the rainforest still have a hand phone. They still have a hape, right? And so they're still connected on things. And so what I say is, you know, take charge of some of those opportunities locally first, because there's only so much that the US can do in terms of limited reach. So yeah, kind of a realistic answer, sorry. Thank you for your question. I think we have another question over here.
Hello, my name is Usman. I am originally from Pakistan. I am an international student in University of Andalus for Master of Electrical Engineering. Question is basically related to this skill chart. Yeah, if we can show this skill chart.
Can we pull up the slide again, please? That's a great video feed, though. You all look good on the screen. Yeah, yeah. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
My question is basically related to, if we see the down chart, these all are the core skills that we need at the initial stage. And at the upper right corner, these are the most skills we know. But I see there are a network and cybersecurity field which is very separated from all the field that we are working on now. So what do you think, why this network and cybersecurity is not as much important as the skills in the right corner? Because with the development of technology or with the development of AI, the most of the affecting area is privacy of someone data or someone about. So why this is much separated than the other skills?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great question. You know, and it's a function of the way this was developed, right? So you're talking about, you know, very good question about like something like networks and cybersecurity, right? So that box there on the upper left, that's emerging skills. So that's what employers think are increasing skills okay? But they're not considered a core skill yet. So what that means is they're emerging. That means that these are like environmental stewardship, networks and cybersecurity, and design and user experience are expected to increase. This is what that box doesn't say that they're not important. It's just that that's what employers are thinking globally are going to be of increasing importance in the next 10, 15 years. So it's just that we don't know, there's not a hard and set of maybe understanding yet around what's the best approach. Does that make sense? So even with environmental stewardship, right? When you think about networks and cybersecurity, that's such a huge field, right? And that comes out to the ethics part of it and what you were saying about privacy and all those things. Each of those things are such huge issues, right? Between cyber networks and securities, environment, right? We're still figuring out what's the best way to to provide, sustainable solutions globally, right? And alliances are changing and priorities are changing all around the world. So these kinds of things are always going to be important, which is why they're on the upper half of the chart, but they're emerging in the sense of, these are things that we're going to watch, and those are large areas where they're changing fast. And so it's more of like a stay tuned kind of thing. So not that they're not important. Yes, up there. Thank you for the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anup, for the chance you have given to us to ask. My name is Dila, and I am from Disability Service and Counseling Unit in Universitas Andalas. I want to ask, perhaps maybe your opinion about how we advance technologies and then digitalization area for the importance of inclusion area, especially particularly for person with disability. So we can improve or increase their skills, especially for their core skills, because I think it will really helpful for them to in the work field area in the future. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Anup.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. I might, I'll start with this question, and I might hand the mic to Christian, and he'll know why in a second. But one of the things I'll say is that, we're also figuring out how to bridge that technological divide, right? And things like, and this is one of the most interesting things for me as an American too, again, is that the relationship of, what's the word to use? I guess, like the way communities, different communities around the world provide different opportunities for disabled communities is fascinating, right? And, I think one of the most promising things I've seen here in Indonesia, at least in my time so far in Jakarta, has been through, we have this collaboration with Apple Academy. And Apple Academy has their core, one of their bigger operations in Binus, university right outside of Jakarta. And, we had the opportunity of going there. We're increasingly doing collaborations around Indonesia at our American corners around, sort of using their framework of creating communities and change within communities, and how do you harness technology with that. And so one of the things, Christian and I went to one of their graduations of their cohorts, right? And he can talk about this better, but like they were communities of young coders who come from all different backgrounds and creating apps. They learned it on their own. I mean, they just learned how to code and they did this like 10-week or 30-week academy, and they, at the end of it, they're developing apps that are like helping, people find blood pressure and detect diabetes. Here, I'll give this to you because I ramble.
So, sorry, can you repeat again the questions so I can better understand how to answer you? What I get is you asking about how to increase or to help disability technological aspect for. I think for disability group, we need to give them space for them to pick up the pace of learning. Sometimes we already set what is success, what is goal. Even for early childhood, we already set standard like around 2 years, it's normal for children to start picking words, like say papa, dada, mama, right? And then not everyone the same, right? There is some children that they have speech delay, and then even some children they have with focusing. We have this autism. Even in the spectrum of what you call healthy, normal people, we have also issues with mental. Yeah, you sounds clever, it seems like your life is perfect, but you're having problem with your mental. It's so different. So the term of disability is the way we use technology is to help them to increase the possibility of them to learn. How? Right now, Elon Musk with the technology already working on the Neuralink, where you can help you to help the artificial for you to help the blind, to see, even not only for sight, but also for the deaf. That's technology, right? But we cannot push the technology to be instant. Like I want to be able to understand the universe or whatever, right? It's more about us actually, that sometimes, or maybe like even for this space, how can the disability, with disability for movement can access this space? This is not about technology, right? It's not about we need to build AI. No, it's about understanding that everyone is different and needs space. So how we can increase the space for whatever kind of disability for them to access, like learning, job, for whatever. It's like increasing the space. Right now, I don't know, like if you have a friend that's, using wheelchairs, and we create an event here, like for for access for disability, right? It doesn't need technology, right? Right? Sometimes technology is not the problem. Technology is the tools. We always say that, we will wait until the technology solve our problem. No, the problem is us. Sometimes we just don't think that other problem is our problem. That's the very basic of human understanding, that also for international relationship, collaboration, the way Anup used a lot of chart. Our friend here asking about why cybersecurity is not that very important, It's important, but sometimes cybersecurity is not for all, right? It's for those that have a passion on coding, know the network. It's for very selective people that can have access to a lot of knowledge. But for another quadrant, it's like analytical, or if creative thinking, critical thinking. I think it's for all of us, to keep asking questions. Why? Even after our friend here already developed agent or AI for building business idea, right? Comparing A to B, what type of business. But for us, that's something that AI need is keep asking why. Keep asking why. Keep asking why. We're not settled for whatever answer. Even if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, when it's like, where are you? Where were you last night? I'm just with my friend. Are you sure? Like, it's not about trust, but it's like, that's a part of us. That's the part of us, like, keep asking. So we are not finished with just one answer, but the part of us become more useful for the future is we are never settled for an answer. We keep asking for a result. Keep asking. That's why sometimes people just want to look smart. They use AI, generate this and then done. And then share to, I don't know, like the presentation, replying email, but sound smart, look smart. But that's not actually the essence, right? The essence of us become solving the problem because we want something more than this. This is not enough. And then keep asking, keep asking. That's why maybe this is my sales pitch, That's why this type of programming actually is not us just listening to Anup, but also us hearing, what actually Padang, what actually the internal students focus with, and maybe in the future we can develop program. Like maybe we can have connect someone from Pakistan with someone in Padang, I don't know, right? American Corner, right? It's something that even AI not predict by just building this engagement. So maybe I will stop from there. But for the disability, for me, because I have a son, I have a long, I want to see him excel, but sometimes I just need to tell myself, I need to give him a space, to learn, to pick up a pace or whatever. Same thing with disability as well. Thank you.
That was like a sermon. I love it. I also want to be cognizant of time, but go ahead. Yeah? 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 There you go.
So, okay, my question is AI is fascinating, okay, but I'm also IT student. My name is Ismail. I'm international student in Universitas Andalas. I'm IT. So for my information is for now AI is fascinating. Okay, it's very acceptable. But the thing is AI is not providing enough income or profit for enough energy they spend or the resources they spend. So should we be worrying about the AI bubble popping?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I'm no expert, but I do think I'm going to focus in on a point that you made in your question, which is AI not earning enough money and not enough quick returns, right? And that's actually the point, right? I mean, that's a point that I think Christian raised in his previous answer, and what I've been talking about during my presentation is that's the human element, right? What's going to make money and what's going to earn you a livelihood is in here, not on AI, right? And so I think, I've often, old person point of view, I've often thought of AI as a tool. It's just a tool, right? But it's not going to be, I don't think for AI to be a business, it's a different thing, right? Because if you're thinking about AI as a business, at least in my point of view, you have to have a company of 1,000 people and whatever, and you're going to be producing new versions of AI. That to me is an AI as a moneymaker. When I think about an entrepreneur or a student or a professor or a diplomat or whatever, AI is not going to be the thing that's going to earn me money, right? AI can help me research geopolitical issues that I need to know so I can better talk to an audience, or when I go into a government meeting, I have the research. Or, you know, my brother's a doctor, for example, so like AI for him could be a tool to help him better perform surgeries or better think about things from a patient perspective. But again, that's not what's earning him money, right? What's earning him money is the impact he's making on a patient's life. What's earning me money is how effectively am I representing the United States to people of the world, right? And that you can't, I don't think, no matter how smart AI gets and how we train AI, it's never going to replace, I just firmly believe it's never going to replace human jobs, right? So I think the bubble, to go back to your question, yeah, I think the bubble is probably going to burst. I don't know what that means really. I'm not an expert. But I do think the bubble's going to burst in a way. I'm not going to talk about it from an economic standpoint or financial markets or whatever, but just from a human perspective, I think we're coming to a bubble realizing that, like, okay, this thing might be flawed, right? I mean, there are times, even for me, when I use ChatGPT or whatever, and sometimes I get a wonky answer back and I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, why did it spit this back, right? So like, I think we're coming to a point where it's going to be smart enough, but it's also, I don't know, I think there's enough recognition that we need to kind of harness it, right? But I don't think it's gonna. I think it would be a shame if I learned from all of you that you are relying on AI to replace your livelihood in the future, right? Yeah, at least that's my point, my perspective.
But for my point of view, AI is still earning because all the tools that are built based on AI, people selling in market to use to help in different businesses, to different developing some apps. So whenever someone download or get some subscription, so they are earning in short.
Right.
So still there is a earning for these AI
onion,
platform.
right?
Yes.
I like that analogy. We had a question over here. Thank you.
So, first of all, thank you so much for the very insightful sessions. So, my name is Mestin Haliza. I'm international relations student from Andalas University. So, one thing that I'm so curious, what is the key points or one best things to develop all the skills, or I really just have to focus on just one skills in today's era, especially for Gen Z, like.
Oh man.
Yeah, students.
Well, my parting advice is going to be very generic. Is I think for Gen Z, my stereotype of all of you is that you know technology, you know the tools, you have the ability to learn new tools, and you don't have you're not like me, right? Like I grew up, without all this stuff, and and I had to learn it, right? And it's still a challenge for me. But all of you grew up in a world, you're growing up in a world where like it's all at your fingertips, right? So my advice to you is focusing on those soft skills, right? Pushing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, learning the soft skills that are going to get you to lead, because you're always going to have the technology. I have no doubt. I don't even know you, but I have no doubt you know how to use AI. You use all sorts of apps that I probably never heard of, right? But for you, what I would, if you were sitting trying to convince me for a job, I would, if I read your resume, I would say, sure, she's smart or whatever, but I want to hear how she talks. I want to hear how she presents herself. I want to hear how she solves problems, right? I want to hear examples of how you've led something, how you led people, or how you led an initiative, right? How did you solve something that maybe we didn't see? It's those kinds of things that I would say focus on, right?
Okay, thank you.
don't know how much time we have, but, but
Okay, thank you for the opportunity.
oh, yes. Sorry, yes.
My name is Raya, and I'm currently studying international relations. I'm going to ask you some things about AI too.
Okay.
From what you're saying before, you seem a bit optimistic about AI. Would never replace humans, such as resilience, etc. But I think it feels a little bit concerning because, yeah, as we all know, AI right now is not only ChatGPT, but also deepfakes, groks that currently break the ethic codes, right? So I think, what if one day AI just could replace humans' uniqueness, like such as you made an essay for yourself for scholarship. You reread your essays, and then you read essays that ChatGPT's made. You know the difference, right? But what if someday the ChatGPT's essay could just give some experience that humans only had, like the feelings, the experience, some things that unique such as humans. Can you explain how you optimist why AI couldn't replace that uniqueness?
Oh boy. I mean, well, I'm not an expert on AI, so I don't even understand how it's built and all these things. But what I'll say, what's interesting about your question is, it's a valid one. I think a lot of people are thinking about this. I just remain very, very bullish on the fact that I think, I don't know. I mean, I think AI, for me, it's hard to imagine how AI can think like a human, right? I mean, I get it in theory, but things like emotions, I just don't know. I think what defines us as human beings are emotions, right? Sadness, fear, curiosity, jealousy, all these things, right? So like, for me, and maybe I'm not answering your question, I'm just sort of talking off what I think. It's hard for me to understand how technology can be jealous or can be fearful, or do you know what I mean? So like, the essence of what makes us human is what we feel, right? And to me, like, you can't, I don't know, how do you program emotions, right? How do you, go ahead.
I noticed some things. AI just there keeps our informations. Like if we were asking about some things, that some things feels a little bit emotional. So like GPT also, if we were tell him some things that emotional, sometimes they're answering with emotionally too. So I think I've heard informations about AI just keep our AI could save our personal informations and how our emotions towards some things.
Yeah. Well, and it ties back to why cybersecurity is important, right? It's an emerging field, it's a big one. So I think it's a perfect example how, a lot of these issues, like AI is huge, right? It's like going to be front and center, but it intersects with so many other things, like in that chart, right? And so like, we're going to need to know, people like you and me, I know nothing. I mean, like, I would need to understand what are the limits of this, right? And I think to your example that you use in the question, right? Like, soon or maybe in the future, AI could write scholarship essays or something. This is something, it's very interesting. I mean, on the government side, I've been on panels to screen, what am I calling it? Nomination panels, where we're selecting candidates for some government US programs. And, I did this, in all the countries I've been in so far, and I can tell immediately what, say, application has been written by AI, right? And I can just tell when it's like, it's been chugged out of AI and there's been minimal human involvement. And I think, and we've been taught to, and I personally immediately just want to like reject, you know, because I'm like, this is not, they didn't put any effort in. It's not telling me anything. I'm not hearing their voice, right? And so that's what I want to say is, I think, yes, that could be happening more and more in the future, but I do think at some point, you know, if you think about a job application process too in the US, nowadays, you know, a recruiter in HR screens through like, they probably get for every job posting, they're getting hundreds, thousands of applications, right? So yes, there's a space for AI in the sense of that person can't possibly read 1,000 resumes and then select 10 out of those for interviews, right? But it's interesting, you feed it through the AI system and then it still chugs out like maybe 30 candidates that pass the initial screen. But then why do we not continue to use AI to select candidates, right? At some point, the AI programs stop, you know, like companies stop using those to screen, and then at some point, they invite people in for an interview, right? Because at the end of the day, no matter how much, you know, applications or things on paper might be produced by technology, at the end of the day, what's gonna get you that job or what's gonna help humans evaluate other humans is the interview, right? It's seeing face to face that candidate, right? Because again, the human ability to read emotion, to like kind of see the features of somebody while they talk, how are they composed in an interview? I mean, as somebody who's interviewed hundreds of people throughout my career, I can tell you that you cannot replace that skill with technology, right? My ability to get an immediate sense of someone's vibe, someone's like demeanor, someone's right. It's just human. You can't teach that. I don't know. Call me old-fashioned. I just think you can't teach that. So, but thank you for the thoughtful question.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hand this to you. Okay.
All right. Thank you for the excellent question, all the participants. Thanks as well to Mr. Mahajan for sharing with us. Okay, that was so insightful. All right, guys, before we proceed to the ending, we will take a group photo session. So I will invite Mr. Mahajan to come to the center, and all of the participants can remain seated for the group photo session. All right. Oke, mungkin teman-teman boleh merapat ke tengah ya teman-teman, karena kita akan mengambil foto. Mungkin yang di ujung boleh merapat ke tengah, kita merapat ke sini. Aku ikut nggak? Teman-teman yang di atas boleh isi dulu banknya yang di bawah. Yang ini pindah ke sini. Teman-teman.